case anybody's wondering, you can just click got it to just clear that screen. Although our Zoom window says Doug and Sarah Hannah, it looks like it's Doug and Carey, and Sarah is here. She's off screen, but Carey is here because he was having technical problems, and he's got an amazing presentation to share with us about his dad. And the way to make it happen was for him to come here, so he has. So yeah,
right across the street from Brindley.
That's right. Yeah, there you go.
Oh my God! Jeez.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You have a little enclave out there, maybe.
Yeah, I would guess we could dispense with the introductions because it's all regulars at this point, right?
No sense.
Yeah. So
did you say Brittany's here? I didn't see her. I don't see her.
she doesn't have her video on, but she's got her screen there.
She's there. It's a
Hi,
Ricky. Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning. It was nice to meet your family, Brittany.
Oh, thank you, Ricky. It was so great to see you yesterday. We got home and Sebastian, the tall one, he said, "That's an important person, isn't it?"
Oh yeah.
Always knew he was a smart kid.
Well, you thank him for me. That bean pole of yours. My God,
well,
I can't believe how tall he is for his age.
I know, it's crazy. When I told him everything you'd done, he says the same thing. Thank you to you.
Yeah. So yeah, do you want to start sharing? I think if you could just go to share screen and then all of the choices and probably from, I think this one, because it's full screen, this probably means the slideshow. Yeah, there we go. Are folks seeing that on their screen?
Yeah.
Massive.
Yep.
All right.
So yes, my late father, kind of interesting story. He went from the very large earth moving business to making small scale furniture, about as from one end of the spectrum to the other, really, quite literally. And
the right one, maybe. No, wonderful. More technical problems.
Oh, here we go. Whoop. This may be a little bit rough, but
yeah.
So I don't know what year this was exactly. There's my dad there with his younger sister in the middle and his older sister, the wise one, to the right. So there's Donald, Helen. I always knew her as Stevie. Helen Stevens Buttfield. I'm Carey Stevens Buttfield, and then Liz. Liz she worked at Princeton University and lived in that area in New Jersey. Helen was in New York City the whole time. She moved into a rent-controlled apartment on 14th Street in the very early 60s and lived there until
wow.
She was an artist, taught photography at one of the schools in New York City. And, that was kind of a quick little view of the fam when they were quite young. And then my father, that's him in the left-hand side in the top ad, he and his crew too. The reason I had this picture, they dug a hole for New Jersey's equivalent of Great Woods Amphitheater. It was a long, arduous process, but shovel by shovel, they dug it up and you can see the pile of dirt that they created there.
Wow.
And there's different stages of the art center being completed. There's an aerial view in the bottom left-hand corner. Then in the middle and the bottom, I think I'm in the audience there someplace. So he got some free tickets just for being the foreman that kind of did that part of the job. He didn't do the structure, he just dug the hole, as you can see with the wheelbarrow. And the first concert I ever got to see as a not quite 10-year-old was Tom Jones.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
It's not unusual to be loved.
Wow.
So he went on from doing that to a number of different highways along the Jersey Shore. Then we were talking about warehouses down in New Jersey. Kind of just across the river from Staten Island was a lovely Port Elizabeth. And there was, I guess, some railroad terminals there or something, but they had these, what they call them, the scrapers in the bottom middle to pick up all the sand and just contour the land. And they literally, and you see in the bottom right, dozens and dozens of airport size hangars, warehouses, where much of the goods from that come in from the East Coast end up in these warehouses. As a second, no, they come from the East Coast. It's near New York City. I think they come across from Europe and other parts.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. As a second grader, I went to go to work with him to that project. And I don't know how tall I was standing, but the wheels on this vehicle, whoops, a little too far ahead. We're about 10 feet tall. And I got to climb up in this thing and sit there in this machine as it was pushing these giant scrapers,
Oh,
even though
man.
they had dual engines for the front and the rear.
Oh. There we go.
Never mind. The sand was so heavy, they needed an extra push to get them through this heavy, wet sand. And they did. And the result is this. Another project was interesting, was a drag strip in Englishtown, New Jersey, which I got to visit one time. And then many years later, ended up going to a concert there with, I thought there was 125,000 people, but it was only 100. Three groups
The
culminated with
Grateful Dead.
the Grateful
All
Dead.
right.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Brinley, you would have enjoyed that.
Yeah.
New Rogers,
It's
That's
just
a
our
perfect-
son.
I'm sure I would have.
Yeah.
yeah. And then another thing he did, if you've ever had the pleasure of flying into Newark, New Jersey International Airport, it was a very old airport, and he contoured the land for the new terminals. So if you've ever had the pleasure of flying into there's a new terminal in the bottom middle, that's where I learned to drive incidentally. He had a 69 Ford pickup truck, as did the two other partners in this business.
Wow.
And he was a very trusting guy. We would actually drive his pickup truck, me and my friend Drew or Mark, whoever went with me to work, on these hard packed dirt, lanes, if you will, that then became the airport runways.
So
So
was he self-taught or did he have an engineering degree or what?
I think he was self-taught. He started
Wow.
out as a doing landscaping, stuff like that, and then sort of,
Just built up?
yeah.
Wow.
Oh, gee. Oh my God.
What?
Watch out.
Yeah.
So there they are, a number of years ago, mom and dad at my brother's wedding many years ago. And whoops, got ahead of myself. They were all teachers as well. You can see my dad on the left, teaching one of his grandsons about something, my mother there in the middle. And then, as fate would have it, I guess I had to be a teacher, teaching one of my nephews.
Oh, that is you on the.
That's me on the
right.
far right there.
Yeah.
But I said, Dad, I want to ride in machines like that. That's what I want to do.
Wow.
He said, no, son, no. You have to think small. He said, how small? Oh, that size small? No, smaller. This size small.
Wow.
See that quarter and see that dime? That's small. These are one of the few full-scale pieces that my dad made. He made two of those spice cabinets for each of my sisters. And then he went on, no, I actually made the miniature version first, fairly early on. It stands all of about that tall, which is really remarkable. Dovetail drawers, everything. Beautiful
Wait,
capital
so for
legs.
those pieces of furniture, he made both the miniature and a full scale.
Correct. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So that's at my younger sister's house there. Whoops. And there's a picture you might have briefly seen at the end of the last presentation.
Oh, my gosh.
That's fabulous.
Did you bring a fork?
Yeah.
How big is that
Oh,
pie?
that is funny.
How about a shovel?
Pie is regular size, right?
Right. It's a regular sized pie and just a series of obviously Chippendale chairs.
Oh, that's beautiful.
He made a large 3-section dining room table, and he would get a number of, he'd go off to travel to different shows from the Jersey Shore, Virginia, Pennsylvania. There's even one that used to be up here in Boston many years ago, near the theater district at the Howard Johnson's Hotel that was there.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And somebody wanted a dining room table, and he was just trying to sway them from wanting that, because that would mean they would want chairs. And you can see they're pretty rudimentary by his standards. And he got very bored making just these chairs. So he said, stop with the making the dining room tables. And then he did start kind of, low scale. This is just, I don't know where this piece came from. Maybe somebody shared some plans and said, can you make this for me? This is a replica of the kitchen table that we had as a kid. And this was 1975. You can see his, on the far right, he always sort of, I don't know if he had some kind of gold leaf pen or ink or something, but I always, put his name there.
Mhm.
$175, almost 50 years ago.
Wow.
That's just a little, birdcage table. Pretty simple stuff so far.
Carey, what are the woods that he used?
Principally cherry.
Yeah.
This one was black walnut. I think it's a larger
Yeah,
grain.
I don't think there's anything simple about that at all. When you think of, so he had like a little miniature lathe that turned that.
There's, yeah. Yeah. It's just a blanket chest simple that my mother actually painted. She, in addition, he made the furniture. She did some painting, small scale, little artwork that you'll see soon. She painted this blanket chest. Those
Oh,
are a couple sketches
beautiful.
and paintings that my mom did, fairly tiny.
Yeah, it's
Watercolor.
miniature paintings too.
Yeah, the seascape is probably about 2.5, 3 inches wide by maybe 2 inches.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh, there they are again. So Doug was asking,
You got echoing on somebody. No. Okay,
It's
it
gone.
went away now, but
who was this person that just jumped in from far away? Hi, Leslie. Leslie, you're on mute. Leslie is visiting her mom 830 miles away from here right now.
oh wow.
Yeah, so I'm glad you could join us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Doug asked about a lathe. That's a little thing called a unimat, which was a combination table saw with a blade that was about
Yeah.
that tall, and it could be turned into a lathe.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool. So Nutshell News was kind of the Time magazine, of its day for miniature artisans and such. There was a feature article in 1980. Wow.
And is that him on the cover?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
That was him.
And at this point, he had retired from his.
Yeah, he
Large
retired
scale?
from the excavation business. He had
Okay.
just been for 30-something years getting up with the roosters in the morning and driving off to far locations. Enough. So here we're getting into some more stuff. There's a Windsor chair and a handkerchief table.
Oh,
Incidentally, the backdrop, I didn't want to just have, this is my kitchen counter, sort of. I didn't want to have my stove as sort of a backdrop, so I found a couple books about different miniature furniture
Ah,
and use that as a little makeshift backdrop. Thought it'd make a much better setting. And
oh,
yeah.
so this is we had a chair like this as a growing up. I think my brother has it now. Just a little sideboard made with cherry.
oh, how beautiful.
He had
The grain.
this unique way of just, you'll hear later that they wanted to start this school that draws people from just all over the globe, literally. You'll find out in a second. And I've seen some really masterful people that make this such detailed stuff, and it's so perfect, it almost looks like prefabricated, maybe even out of plastic. He had this unique way of making what seemed like a full-scale piece of furniture and just shrinking it down magically to look so authentic.
Hey, Karen,
Yes,
does that chair look like this chair?
pretty close. There you go. Look at that.
Full size miniature.
There you go. So he made the hardware, as if even the hinges, turn the knobs, I guess, with the lathe as well. There's another sideboard. This one was black walnut, I believe.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
And there's a
Oh,
low
man.
boy. But he had some very, very tiny little chisels that he
A real
carved.
low boy.
Yeah.
Mm.
So he figured out a lot of things just through trial and error. And those are brass hinges and the plates, if that's what the correct name. And I don't know how he came up with this, but he used lemon wood to somehow press like a jig down on the brass. And there's enough resistance, I guess, with the lemon wood that he was able to cut these out pretty well.
Oh,
I don't know how he figured that out.
Wow.
did
Um,
he have training in any kind of
He made his
construction?
father made some ship models. He made some, when I was younger, and he had one on displays, like a 3-masted schooner, and one of the cats
Oh, no.
saw it there. It went and chewed on the masts, and my father, I thought, was gonna.
Yeah. Wow.
Nice.
This is a secretary desk that he made. If you can see in the middle slide, there's a dime sitting in one of the drawers.
Yeah.
Wow, look
And off to the right is I think it's called a Sheraton writing desk with a much larger quarter down by one of the legs.
Wow.
Now, this is a piece. This is interesting. It's a Bombay chest. I was going to save this to later because this is actually the last piece that he made. And when he made them, he typically made about 5 of them at a time. He kept one and then sold off the rest of them. So this was a piece he actually got the idea from the MFA here in Boston. And that's yours truly standing there taking a picture of it next to the actual miniature.
Wow.
There's a bit of a close-up of it.
Yeah.
And you can see the look at the drawers on the left-hand side. So dovetailed and everything else
Right.
there.
Yeah.
And then there's this Japanese fish bowl. I honestly don't know where he got the little ceramic dish, but he designed the fish bowl, the stand itself, to accommodate the
Yeah.
thing. It was I don't want to say it was simplistic again, but he had more challenges with this piece, trying to put it all together and just hold it. I can
Yeah.
only imagine
Yeah.
what that was like. So he only made a couple of those. This is a piece that corner cupboard he made. And then there are 2 of these little tables about yay big. I have one more full scale piece that he made to the right, and you can see the 2 of them on top.
So did he make far more miniatures than
Oh,
full scale pieces?
yeah.
Yeah.
Carey, excuse me, I just had a question about that last piece, that scallop shell. Yeah, like how he did that.
I guess he just, drew a sketched out a plan, and just with some little chiseled, he had flat ones, pointed ones, you name it. He had all these little chisels.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much detail in that. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
A lot of the time I was off at college and wasn't actually there to witness what he was doing, but I saw the end products. But
Do you have a sense of how much time it took him to create one of these pieces?
that's
I mean,
a
I'm
good
sure it
question.
varied,
Yeah,
but-
probably a couple of months,
Yeah.
but it was, I know my mother had trouble dragging him out of the basement.
Yeah.
Donnie, time for dinner. Be there in a minute. That's what I was telling my
That,
dog. My
that-
dog wants to go outside.
That price tag that you showed on one of the pieces, $175, I would, even back then, I would think that would not begin to do justice
Yeah.
to the amount of time.
Yeah.
you
Did
have
he market?
invested.
This,
How did he market his work?
he went around to do different trade shows, as I was mentioning. There's one down in Virginia, in Ashland, I believe, Philadelphia, and this one in Boston, as I mentioned. This Bombay chest there, which I think was 1981, it's the last piece he made. And I think that sold back then for $2,000.
Beautiful.
So at that point,
Mhm.
he really had developed a name for himself, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. He developed cataracts, and his ability to really kind of zero in and see the fine detail,
Yeah.
with magnifying glasses and everything else. He just, he's a perfectionist, and he just didn't, want to compromise anything. So that was kind of the last piece he made. So he did make some bigger things. So off to the right are some corner cabinets that used to be in their house in New Jersey that I was fortunate enough to inherit. I was one of 4 kids, and we kind of went through the pecking order in terms of who wanted what. And I don't know how my brother or sister didn't want this, but I did.
Wow.
Yeah, they're in my
Yeah.
house here. And that's a small miniature piece, a highball on the left, if you
Yeah.
hadn't gathered.
Were all the pieces pretty much to the same scale?
Yep.
Okay.
1 inch to the foot. He had done, one of my sisters has a grandfather clock, a blanket chest, and a Windsor chair that was 1.5 inches to the foot. So his grandfather clock was roughly about that tall.
Yeah.
Then he went to then he found out that real traditional scale was 1 inch to the foot.
Yeah.
Actually, he did make a few other things. This is before there were CDs, he made a cassette case for all 4 kids, and some salad tongs off to the right, and a square. There's a kind of the opening of the piece he made, hanging in my living room. Oh, and my mother, there's a shot of her. When she wasn't disciplining me, she was a professional dog walker. and made some stitches. Those are some of our dogs we had. Actually, we had 4 dogs most of my childhood growing up, which is a lot of fun. The little one on the far left-hand side, my brother brought home from a construction site. I think it was Newark Airport, if I'm not sure. The one just after my mom to the right, his name was Macy. There were 2 stray dogs at a project he was doing for Macy's and Bambergers, just contouring the land for some warehouses for them. My dad would go to lunch with another gentleman, and there was always these stray dogs who were hanging outside waiting for some scraps. The people who knew the waitress knew them pretty well and got wind that I guess there's complaints that the dog catcher was coming to grab them and take the dogs off to the pen. So my dad grabbed one, the other guy grabbed another one, and that became Macy. One here, who had been living out in the wild all his life. It was fit to be tied. He would first scale a 6-foot fence.
Yes.
When he couldn't do that, we put some wire mesh around the top of that. That kind of contained him for a bit. Then he started to dig under it, and I would get logs to kind of fill up the holes. But
Wow. Determined.
yeah, to display his a lot of his furniture at these shows, he built a couple shadow boxes. So
Wow.
yeah, I don't have electricity here, but there's even these little tiny bulbs that do light up.
Yeah.
He put a light kind of outside the window on the left, as you can see, kind of illuminate an outdoor subject.
And how about the wallpaper?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good
Yeah.
question.
Wow.
There's another view of it. There was a little funky kind of green bulb that would kind of flicker on and off with some wood there that make it simulate like it was a real
Like a
fireplace.
fire. Yeah.
Yeah. And this was a dining room scene. You know, there's some of the lights that are on. They paid the electric bill. Little corner cupboard. I didn't take the time to put some furniture in it, but if you set up right, it would look pretty cool.
Yeah. Because this is all to the same scale. an
Yeah,
inch to a
yeah.
foot. Yeah. Wow.
I got ahead of myself. I did this cross-country trip back in 1993. I was at Lesley College, working at a hotel in Harvard Square, and I had this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get a leave of absence from this job and travel cross-country. This was 1993. I was getting a degree in environmental education, and I wanted to put together a unit, a 14-week unit on environmental ed. This is before the days of the internet. So this little trip that I took fulfilled two things: to collect data for the curricula and see if there was someplace other than New England that I might want to live. So I set out in my little 84 Honda Accord that had 151,000 miles on it for 10 weeks. I got a leave of absence, not just a leave of absence from this hotel, the Inn at Harvard, which is now a dormitory for Harvard University right there in Harvard Square. I got free hotel rooms at a number of places that are connected for the network.
Wow.
So,
Jeez.
but most of the time for the 10 weeks I spent camping out
Yeah.
in my tent or
Yeah.
staying with some friends. Anyway, when I left, my parents said, you've got to stop in this little town of Seaview, Washington on the coast and see this couple, Noel and Pat Thomas, who are instructors at the school. They make these little small replica houses. Well, I saw this, I said, oh my God, I got to do this. And the day I got home, I signed up to try and take a class at this school, which you'll learn more about in a few moments. And this is a creation that I did.
So this is yours.
This is mine. Yeah.
Nice job.
Wow.
And it's really though, it's not just building a structure, but they had Noel and Pat were just terrific people. And the whole focus was sort of making things look that they'd aged
Yeah.
over the time instead of a brand new structure. I can't go into all the details, but there's all these little different techniques I learned to kind of make it look like it'd been a battered, beach
Yeah.
cottage.
Yeah.
It was really, it was so much fun.
Wow.
Now, I might have shown this picture the other day. This is that same corner cupboard that you might have seen. He was on the cover of this guild. It was the International Guild of Miniature Artisans they talked about. Was started around 1972, I think, or so. And then there was this school that they started. My parents were coming back from this art show in Virginia. They had bought this cottage up on the Maine coast at the suggestion of some friends of theirs who've been trying to get my parents to come up and visit them. My father was an avid sailor, and this was right on the water. He was in the excavation business. Of course, the earth is not
Right.
frozen at that point, so that's when the busiest time of the year for him. finally he got to go up there in 76, I think it was. Just fell in love with Castine, Maine. Said, and just said, talk to some people. If you hear of a place that might come on the market, let us know.
Mhm.
Finally, following year, something came up. It was a house that had an adjacent plot of land. There was nothing there on the water. In order for this guy to get the plot of land, he needed to buy the house.
Mhm.
So he bought the package and sold this summer cottage to my parents for a song. It was right on the water. And so anyway, years later, they're coming back from a show. My mom said, wouldn't that be fun to do a show up in Castine? And my dad, being the pragmatic one, said, well, it's not really easy to get to Castine. Bangor Airport, is like well over an hour. Yeah, there's like 16 miles off of Route 1, way down this little twisty road.
Yeah.
But I thought, well, maybe we could get some of the other people that do the same thing we do and teach others how to make small scale furniture and other things like that. And this idea was born. And so this school was started. Leslie and I were fortunate to attend it back in 2018. It was just a great thing. This coming year, it's been going on for 41 years.
Wow.
So started out with just a handful of instructors and, probably a dozen or so students teaching class or taking classes. This is at the Maine Maritime Academy. In the month of June, all the cadets are out of the dorms, out of the classrooms, on the training vessel. So the place is basically just open. So they would take over for a week and just, people would stay in the dorms or rent houses, eat in the cafeteria,
Oh,
classrooms.
wow. Huh.
So it was just ideal. There's another shot of Castine, just a really cool place.
So how big is the attendance now at this point?
It's probably a couple hundred people now.
Wow.
And this is from 2016. I came across this. Is kind of show you it's not just people from this region. They've got people coming from the United States, Canada, and look at all the different countries. All these people will travel all this way and descend on this little coastal town for a week's worth of instruction, fun activities and stuff like that. I mean, look at this.
Wow.
Qatar, England, Brazil, France, Italy, Sweden, Netherlands, Germany, Japan, South Africa, and Australia. I mean, it's nuts.
All over.
Yeah.
Wow.
And this is a little bit of what's going on here. Here's the fun and games here. This guy, Bill Robertson, on the far left with the gray beard, you'll hear more about him in a second. He'd known my parents since really right at the beginning. He was kind of a mentor in a lot of ways for them. Just somebody from the catalog, online catalog, having some fun, a little lobster clam bake to have. This is a dear friend of mine who's been an instructor, Mary Grady O'Brien. She's just a hot ticket. She's still in her 80s. She was, last time I knew, she was teaching a painting class for painting little tiny things on furniture. My mother made it up there in 2011, year before she died. And I was trying my best to get her, because she was a painter. I said, you've got to take a class with Mary Grady O'Brien. She knew her. She was reluctant to do it. She didn't. And sadly, it would have been a fun way. But Mary would have been just the perfect instructor.
Yeah.
Here's her again. This is inside the cafeteria, so to speak. Just having a little fun.
Yeah.
And Leslie might recognize Maggie and Corey, who live in front outside of DC, in Loudoun County.
Huh.
Now, in addition to the school, there's one of the people who's connected with this international guild started a museum, which I finally got a chance to see back in February 2019. And it just kind of blew me away. I'd heard about it for years and finally had an opportunity to get there. It's near Cincinnati, Ohio, in Kentucky.
Yeah.
So that's kind of as you walk into it. There's just a little bit I'll show you from there. There's one piece in the top right corner is my dad's high boy piece. The bottom right, you probably can't see, it just talks about himself. There's a woman who was another instructor that I took 2 classes with subsequently up at the school making furniture, not a beach cottage. Who used to live in Arlington, Massachusetts, is now up in Kennebunk. Just it's some more things from the museum. The little piece in the top right, it looks fairly good size. Yours truly is off to the right there.
Mm-hmm.
Above the stand is a larger version of it. You can't really make it out, but this little piece is probably about this big, made out of brass, I have to suppose. The fellow Bill Robertson, who had the gray beard I showed you earlier, has gone from making furniture to doing things in metal. In the bottom left-hand corner, you can barely see it, is not just a Swiss Army knife, a functional Swiss Army knife. He's nuts, off the charts, the stuff that this guy does.
Wow.
And all these little tools, there's a little tool chest. I mean, that little tool chest is about
Yeah.
this big, wide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And the
how big is
detail.
a Swiss Army knife? They're already small, even
Even
Yeah.
smaller.
yeah.
We're getting towards the end, and the reason why I chose today. Here, we're gonna get a little teary-eyed.
Yeah, that's fun.
So, 25 years ago, May 5th, 16th, 1997, my father won a battle, but lost a war.
Yeah.
Sorry. When he was when he was 51, I was going to community college down the Jersey Shore and working part-time, delivering pizzas. You kind of laugh at that. I looked this up. I walked out in 1977. I could walk out on a Saturday night with $125. That was almost $600 in today's dollars. I mean, it's crazy. Anyway, not to dwell on that. I went off to work, and my dad was laying in bed with an ice pack or a heating pad. He had some back pains, and I had no idea what was going on. I just worked the dinner shift for like 3 hours or so, got home around 8 o'clock or so. My mom knew when I get home, house was empty. She called from the hospital. And, Ted has a 50-50 chance of living.
Wow. God.
So fortunately, he was in the hospital. What happened is he had an aneurysm on his aorta, the main valve in the heart, that ruptured while he was in the hospital.
Mhm.
Fortunately, he was in intensive care for 11 days. They were able to fortunately stabilize him and stitch it up and get him back on his feet. 20 years later, through some tests or something they did, they found out that this, that's just where the sutures were, the aneurysm had been started to deteriorate, and there was a little balloon sac of blood that was right there. And they were, needless to say, very concerned that, if it ruptured again, wouldn't be good. He had some health challenges. He had prostate cancer. They put him on a holistic medication, which caused his legs to turn the color of lobster, boiled lobster.
Goodness.
And just, he was itching, trying not to itch and just going crazy. He had a heart attack. This is while they were up in Maine. Went to the hospital. A couple days later, he had a mild stroke. Mild, I don't know how mild a stroke is. He had a few other health challenges. He had to have his gallbladder removed and this and that. He had smoked. Fortunately, he quit smoking a little while before, he was 51, or else he probably wouldn't have survived that surgery. So they, to do this delicate procedure, they went in and they had to put him on a heart-lung machine and also lower his body temperature to slow his metabolism down. So he got through the surgery okay. This was at a teaching school in Newark, New Jersey. There was a teacher and a surgeon there who had done a surgery like this. That's why he ended up there. He got through that. We got a phone call. Looks like he survived. We're going to take him off the heart-lung machine. Unfortunately, when they started to do that, his heart wasn't beating strong enough, about 30%. So they spend hours and hours trying to wake his heart up more. So unfortunately, he didn't want to be kept alive artificially. So that was him in Castine, I think in 1985, I believe. So he's in his probably about 59. His younger sister, Helen Stevie, as I knew her, came up for memorial service. As part of it, she was an artist and did all these little sketches of his work as sort of a tribute to him. So,
Gee.
Is it fitting in? She was a neat person too. She designed stamps for Hudson River Estuary, Palau, and she's just she
Yeah.
was an amazing person herself, a
Yeah.
real vagabond. But
Mhm.
Fascinating.
so that's my dad, and so it's 25 years ago today.
So how old when he passed?
71.
71.
Yeah,
Wow.
way too young.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Talk about an accomplished life, though.
Yeah, that's
Jeez.
fascinating.
he had fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, just working off the title, as you said, from massive to miniature. Did you ever have conversations with him? Did he tell you like what sparked his interest in working at such a small scale?
It was, yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
You know, his father, as I mentioned, had done some ship models, but never any
Yeah.
furniture and things like that.
Yeah.
He liked woodworking. He didn't
Yeah.
do very much, and then he just
Wow.
decided, on the spur of a moment, said, let me see if I can make this. I don't know if it was a blanket chest or this grandfather clock that actually had the works. It would have worked if he
Yeah.
got it going. It's pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you know, he said, well, that didn't turn. He was a very humble guy too. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
after he passed, they started something called the Don Buttfield Award that they gave to somebody who, either student or instructor, who sort of embodied the same qualities. Very humble. He was a self-effacing man. He
Yeah.
just always complimented other people
Yeah.
about the work they did. You know.
Yeah. The fact that the school has thrived so much
Yeah.
is just what a lasting legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah. 41 years. It's just amazing.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
And it sounds like it's going strong, right?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a woman who's the, I guess, the president of it now, who's actually works at a university in California, who does all the work, organizing all this stuff now,
Mhm.
and will come to Maine a week
Yeah.
or so ahead of time to kind of get things in order.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it runs off like clockwork now. It's really great. There's a
Yeah.
opening presentation where new students will arrive. They'll get to know all the different instructors, what to expect for the week. There'll be a tour of the little town. There's so much history in Castine.
Yeah.
It played such a pivotal role back in the 1700s.
Yeah.
It's just this cool little seaside town.
Yeah.
Paul Revere was up there once for a battle.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's just amazing. You walk around town and there's little plaques all over that talk about these different battles that took place.
Yeah.
There's a huge ship fight that took place between, I guess, the French, I believe it was, or something.
Yeah.
Really, really cool.
Wow.
So,
Wow. Well,
um,
thank you so much for sharing this story.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Who's got questions for Carey? Sally.
Sally.
Yeah. Sorry.
Hi, good morning. I'm kind of in the shadow. I've
Yeah,
muted
that's why I
weird
was
lighting.
trying to figure out who you were.
Carey, I'm so interested in how, as you shown, he went from huge to tiny. What? And he had a basement that he worked in.
Yeah.
Under- No?
Yeah, it was just kind of, you know, not pretty rude. I don't know if you remember, there was a picture of him on the cover. He was just standing in this little workspace. It was only about, I don't know, 6 feet long, 3 feet deep. He had some different tools on the shelf. He had this Unimat, which was a combination table saw and lathe. He had a little miniature drill press, just little gadgets and lots of little tools. I mean,
Yeah.
all these dovetails that he made were pretty much done. He created a jig to cut them out.
Yeah.
It wasn't done with a machine. He really used chisels
Yeah.
to make the dovetails.
Yeah.
I mean, he tried to be as authentic as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he, the finish that he used, it was so funny. I remember he'd get a little pot of water on the stove and get a glass little baby jar that is a makeshift double boiler that had a combination of linseed oil and terps, I think. I'm not sure what that
Okay.
is.
Yeah.
Kind of heat it up just to the right, temperature, and somehow apply it, layer by layer onto the furniture, let it dry. Kind of, I think he used some jeweler's rouge or something to kind of smooth it out, put another application, and especially the cherry would just absorb this and really sort of bring out all the nice patina
Mhm.
through the whole thing. I say, you look at some other pieces, and nothing, I mean, incredibly talented people, but he just had this way of taking what looked like a full sale piece and just breaking it down into miniature.
Yeah.
Carey,
Oh, cool.
Carey,
Yes.
there is a school in the North End
Yes.
that this would be a perfect lecture there.
Well, that's a really good point.
They
Yeah.
do. It was a school that was started about 140 some odd years ago, specifically for immigrants that came in who didn't go to college or didn't go to those kinds of schools, but who wanted to perfect their craft and to give them skills that they could use to survive in their new environment. And they have jewelry making, they have beautiful woodworking in metal and all kinds of.
That's a great idea. I knew of the school and I've never been there, but a couple of people mentioned it, not in terms of miniature furniture, just furniture making itself.
I've toured that school twice. That one of the schools there is preservation carpentry, not miniatures, but full scale. They actually built the front doors to our church when we had to rebuild them. Talk about an amazing deal. It became the class project. So our church paid for the materials, and
which
all of the labor to do that was
Carey, which
free
church
to us.
is this?
The First Congregational, right on the common.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a historic building, and so they were interested, you know, as a training for their students in the historic preservation program. So they were happy, we were happy. It was one of those, because you know, getting those big massive doors replaced was
I took a tour of the place. I don't know if Jay gave a talk on his worship with woodworking, you know, the book that he and David wrote on the work that they did in Temple Israel.
I have a copy of that. It's really, really amazing.
Yeah. So anyhow, so they wanted, I don't know if they were going to give a talk there or what the story was, but we went and we got a tour of the place. It is fascinating. And this is the perfect kind of thing that they would love.
Yeah, I'll look that up. I know it's been suggested maybe the Peabody Essex Museum or some other museums as a display. Somebody, I think, was it you, Rick? Somebody mentioned maybe just at the library, perhaps.
I did.
Oh, yeah.
I did.
Yeah. But Leslie, what was your experience, the casting experience?
Well, it was really incredible to see all of the different crafters coming from all these different countries. And I would have loved to have taken a class, but we were really there to commemorate your dad that year because it was a special anniversary, wasn't it?
I wonder if it was 2018, 4 years ago. So I'm not sure if it was, but we can pretend that it was.
Yeah.
Okay, because I just remember you setting up and how incredible. It was the first time I'd seen your dad's shadow box set up and then heard really so much detail about your dad's life and the award that was given out, and then the people were just incredible in their passion for the craft and so many different areas. I mean, there was a little tiny like cross stitch and you know, embroidery of little tiny pillows,
the flowers.
Yes, from that to the little paintings to, I mean, it opened my eyes to a whole new world.
Yeah. Just runs the whole gamut in terms of everything that it's not just furniture, it's just a fairly small component now. I mean, anything you can think of,
we already sat down at a meeting, me, Carey, and a guy from retired Boston police sergeant, and your sister, is it Judy? Paul's daughter. Paul's daughter? Paul's daughter? Yeah, Linda Paula. Linda. Yeah, so we started the process. Okay. For the square. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. He's actually not talking to us. We should probably mute him. If you go up to the right corner of this window and then right click, you can.
Okay. I thought Paul was asking a question. Sorry.
Yeah.
Also, anybody that can make it to Castine, it is gorgeous. It is drop dead gorgeous. The pictures that you showed, Carey, was just I mean, they were incredible in and of themselves of Castine. But if you are there, it is just the most beautiful little town on the coast of Maine.
Yeah.
So I encourage you to go up and see Castine.
Yeah, I think it just got put on our
Yeah, I was
list. How
gonna say,
far
I-
up is
I
it?
think
Or-
we're
It's,
gonna make a road trip.
You know, you could take, there's two ways to get there. You can take, go up as 95 as far as like Brunswick and take Route 1 up through, the whole way up, or you can go as far as Augusta and take Route 3 across over to Belfast.
Yeah.
If you do that, if you push things a little bit, you can do it about 4.25, 4.5 hours.
It's not too
Not
bad.
too
Yeah.
bad. This is how long it takes
Once you get to
the
Belfast,
Jets
it's
house.
about half an hour. You go through Bucksport
Yeah,
before you get to Ellsworth. If you're going on your way
Yeah.
to Acadia.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Go through Bucksport, and then you turn right down off of Route 1 to
Yeah.
Castine. It's about 16 miles down, but
Yeah,
it back in this day was a big shipbuilding place
Right,
back in 1600. I mean, the history there is just remarkable. There's many years ago, I had a chance to go with my parents up to St. Stephen's in just across the border into Canada. To go like
Mhm.
the east point of the way up. What had happened, there was some religious persecution or something. Some of the people back in the 1600s took some buildings, raised them, and put them on barges
wow.
and took them
All the way
up the
up?
coast
Wow.
and set up shop. I was up in this.
Gonna just take our town and go.
Yeah, I went to this it was a wool shop, sending stuff for,
Yeah.
Yeah.
embroidery or stuff like that. Had once been in Castine, 400 years ago.
Wow,
Wow.
that's
Um,
fascinating.
But it's a little pamphlet I have that talks about the whole history of Castine. It's just,
Yeah.
it's mind boggling, really, all the wars that took place.
How
and
do you spell the name of the town?
Yeah, it looks like you pronounce it Castine. It's named after some French person, but it's Castine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Steve.
I actually, Carey, I'm going out to Maine early June and the end of June, so I was looking for places along the coast of Maine. The family generally stays up in anywhere from New York up to Wells, but I'm taking a week myself, and I want to just go up to different places along the coast and work my way up to Acadia.
Oh yeah. Oh, have you ever been to Acadia?
No, I haven't.
Oh God.
Oh, you gotta go.
When that trip I spoke of earlier, I 10 weeks traveling around, I put 15,500 miles in my car. I
Wow.
went to both rims of the canyon, Yosemite, Yellowstone. Acadia is right near the top of my list of.
Yeah.
When you were telling the story, it brought back memories. I had an uncle. He was an artist. He did sculpturing. He did paintings, and raised 4 children. He was a teacher in Brookline. The guy was amazing. When you're telling the story about your dad doing his trade and his work, all you could think of was my Uncle Bob, and that's why I want to go in there and, up the coast and stop at this. It looks beautiful. I'm looking at it right now. It looks absolutely terrific, and I love the coast of Maine.
Yeah.
I love to see this museum they have up there. So I want to thank you personally.
Yeah, the museum itself that I showed is actually not in Castine. And the school is just, if you went to the website I could post, it's real simple. The group is called the International Guild of Miniature Arts, and it's IGMA.org.
We can throw it in
IGMA.
the chat or something too, but
IGMA.org. And
Yeah.
then if you go under, there's a link at the top that talks about education and the Guild School. And
yeah,
it kind of takes you, a couple of the pictures that I
yeah,
put up there were from there.
yeah.
Harry,
Paul,
I had a question.
Yeah.
Did you have a conversation with Jay Ball about some of this stuff? Because Jay did that Arc Builders project. I was just wondering if you guys had ever talked about it.
No, actually not. And as I say, I've got a copy of the book that he autographed. And
Right. Yeah, I thought.
Yeah.
And then I got an opportunity to go see that North End school about 20 years ago with a shop teacher at middle school that I was, working with. And yeah, it was very impressive. They had such a range of things, not so much miniature, but They had people that were making violins. And
Right.
Yeah.
They've got like
Just-
7 different
it
schools.
just-
And they've got several years ago, right around the time they did the church door project, I think they were getting ready to move into a new facility. So.
Is there room in the north end for a new facility?
I mean, yeah, I'm not
Bennett Street?
entirely sure whether they're technically still in the north end or not. Hopefully they are.
Oh,
But,
yeah,
yeah.
as far as I know, they are still in the north end.
Yeah.
And I think they also, besides violins, I think they did something about harpsichords.
Yeah, it could be. I know they have a whole school on piano maintenance and repair and tuning.
Yeah,
They've
right.
got one on jewelry. They've got the preservation carpentry. Like I said, there's a half a dozen schools at least, or specialties
Yeah.
within there.
Carey,
Yes.
Carey, this is John Moran coming
Hey,
in.
John, the big guy. How you doing?
Hey, I just spent the weekend in Bar Harbor, so it was
Oh,
beautiful.
yeah.
I know just what you're talking about. I was not able to come in right at the beginning. I just wonder while we're talking, chatting, if you could run that video a little bit and just slow it down just a little bit so I could see more of the.
Well, you know what, John?
Yeah.
Maybe a better thing to do is that
It's
what
recorded.
Doug's been doing, it's recorded, and pretty soon I can send you a link, and you can kind of watch it at your leisure at some point from start to finish.
Much better. I
Yeah.
appreciate
Yeah,
that very
yeah.
much.
All of the Coffee with a Purpose sessions are recorded now, thanks to Martin. So
I have a quick,
yeah, Sally.
I have a quick shout out to the lovely needle points that your mother made of those dogs.
The dogs.
I am taking care of the dogs, but and her tiny portrait
Yeah.
or little paintings. Those
Yeah.
are lovely.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing.
There was a picture or sketch that was about that tall that was in their bedroom up in this house in Maine of a kid sitting in this straight back, almost like a Windsor chair, kind of cross-legged there. And the whole time I thought it was my older brother, Scott, who's 6 years older than I. And then finally I saw a little Kodak picture about 3 by 3. I said, wait, that's me.
Yeah. I'd just like to go back to something that Paul said a few minutes ago where, Paul, you said watching this presentation reminded you of your uncle, the artist. And I think a lot of us have some pretty fascinating people in our lives. They might have been our parents, our uncles, our neighbors, who knows who, but we have lots of great socially conscious Coffee with a Purpose sessions, but I think it's great to have sessions like this sprinkled in now and then too. So hopefully, in addition to hearing Carey's fascinating story about his dad, maybe this will spark an idea in people's minds to, tell us, put together a little presentation about someone who is important and informative in your life. Doesn't have to be the full hour presentation like this one is. We could, do a smorgasbord of a few. But I really enjoyed this
Yeah,
one.
me too. Fascinating.
Yeah, well, all the doom and gloom that's out there these days.
Yeah,
It's nice to
exactly.
kind of mix it up a little.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad people like my idea.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Like Ricky,
Yeah,
this
that
was
was-
your idea.
That was your idea. and
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah. So,
Well, it was a relief from what we hear every day.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.